Hey everyone, it's Spencer Hakimian. Welcome back to another episode of What's Moving Your Money. And on today's episode, we are going to be covering a lot. We're going to be talking about Nvidia getting a license to sell H20 chips to China again in exchange for a fee to the US government. We are also going to be talking about the debacle that happened with the Swiss gold tariffs and the inevitable cancellation of those tariffs. Then we're going to be talking about the another extension of all the tariffs on China. And finally, we're going to be talking about the CPI and PPI numbers that are coming out this week and what you can expect and where we are already beginning to see some early warning signs about the pass-through effect to consumers and producers on tariffs. So sit back tight. I hope you guys enjoy and let's get right into it. So the big news that happened yesterday was that it came out that Nvidia is now once again allowed to sell H20 chips, AI chips to China on a new export license granted by the United States government in exchange for a 15% fee on all revenues that will be generated from China. Now, Nvidia earns roughly a 40% profit margin on these chips. So if you were to consider this a tax, this would essentially be roughly a 35 to 40% tax on Nvidia's Chinese sales of these products. Now, beyond just the cognitive dissonance of charging companies a lot more to be selling products like those AI chips, think about the moral hazard that this creates for not just Nvidia, not just for other companies, but for the United States as a whole. If it is getting into the business, I'm talking about the United States government. If it is getting into the business of telling companies what they can and cannot sell, but then going one step further and then allowing companies to sell what they cannot sell if they get a surtax on top of it. Could you imagine a scenario where Lockheed Martin would be allowed to sell nuclear weapons to Iran in exchange for a fee? Could you imagine a world where drug cartels in Colombia would be allowed to sell fentanyl legally in the United States in exchange for a fee? Look at where this can go if you keep letting it trickle down in your imagination. There is a reason we have laws in our country. There is a reason that the United States government is not supposed to be a business. It is in the industry, it is in the sector of providing laws and safeguarding our society. There are enough people in this country that are in the private sector looking to make money. The government is not there to earn a surtax by giving favors to businesses. The government is there to make sure the rules are being followed in the best interest of all American people, not just in the best interest of one publicly traded company. Look, we also have to get into the extension on the Chinese tariffs because I think this is becoming a little bit silly here. But beyond the fact that it's silly and we get all the taco noise and everything, it really shows something I think that is really important. Deep down in Trump's heart, in his mind, he knows these tariffs are not the best idea. He knows it is crazy to be putting these insane tariffs all across the board. He has this rather medieval world view that the only way that he can achieve some of these objectives that he's trying to achieve with these countries is by strong-arming them, essentially, by bullying them. He lives in a dog-eats-dog world, right? And yes, that works quite well on a country like Sri Lanka. Yes, that works well on a country like Cambodia. That works well on a country like Lesotho, which he famously mocked a few months ago. But it doesn't work well with an equally sized mammoth as us, which is China, right? Because we cannot strong arm them. Their economy grows faster than ours. They have 4 times the population that we do. They have a much more structured and organized and effective government at this point in time than we do. They do not have midterms to win or lose. So there's so much in this sense that Trump is handicapped against Xi in, and it keeps causing him to extend these tariffs. But with all of that being said, the uncertainty that this is causing nonetheless, and keep in mind, we still are charging roughly a 30%, 33, 35% tariff on China, plus a 20% fentanyl surcharge that some companies supposedly are paying. None of this is clear, which is pretty interesting also. With all of this uncertainty, we are not getting any of the potential theoretical benefits of tariffs, such as incentivizing onshoring, such as collecting excess tariff revenue. We are just getting the uncertainty. Doesn't that seem pointless? Even if you support tariffs, doesn't this seem a little pointless to you that we constantly are delaying, changing, redoing, refining all these tariffs? Why don't we just put something in place if we believe in it so much? I clearly don't believe in it. But if Trump sincerely believes in it, why don't we just go ahead with this one time and see where it goes? One, because he knows he can't strong arm them. And two, he knows how bad the effects would be on the American people. And he doesn't want to use them because he really does care about his popularity deep down. Now, another just crazy tariff dilemma that happened over this past weekend was the gold tariff fiasco, for lack of a better word, with Switzerland. It was announced that we would be charging full 50% tariffs on any gold that was coming out of Switzerland that was above a kilo. Now, that is particularly important because 70 to 75% of all of the world's refining capacity for gold comes from Switzerland. There are 5 refiners in Switzerland that handle 3/4 of the world's volume. Gold is mined in South Africa, in Russia, in Canada, wherever it may, but it ultimately has to get refined into a usable product such as gold bars, such as gold coins, such as gold jewelry, wherever it might be, through Switzerland. They are the linchpin, they are the choke point for the rest of the gold industry. Now, on top of that, gold was a very important place and still is a very important place historically for central banks around the world to store their gold because they are politically neutral. They are not in the EU, they are not in NATO, they are not in any clearly one-sided partnership agreements with countries. They are a neutral country that does not seek to get involved extensively in world affairs other than as a mediator or as a neutral zone where 2 opposing countries can come and meet up. Now, this was a perfect place for central banks to store their gold because they knew that Switzerland would not sanction them. They knew that Switzerland would not bar them from taking their gold out of the safes and the vaults in Switzerland. They knew that Switzerland, their money and their gold was safe there. Now, if there is a 50% tax to take your money, in this case, your gold, from Switzerland into the United States, what is that going to do for investment demand into the US from all of those foreign investors that were temporarily storing their funds in Switzerland? So with all of these questions, gold spiked. But what happened next is that Trump comes out this morning and he truth socials, there will be no tariffs on Swiss gold. Thank you for your attention to this matter. But this gets to my point of the carelessness and the sloppiness of all of this. Anyone could tell you how incorrect of an idea tariffing Swiss gold is. Anyone that has the slightest clue about the Swiss gold industry and how important gold is to the rest of the world, particularly to central banks, would have told you, don't do this. He is impulsive. He does things without actually going through to see what the consequences are. And then thankfully, there are people in the White House that are telling him this does not make all that much sense and cancel it. And thankfully, he listens some of the time to them. But look, that is a problem that was sorted, but I think it's just very topical and it's a microcosm of all the other stresses we've needlessly dealt with revolving around tariffs, global trade flow, global foreign direct investment flow, all of the above in the past, let's call it 3 to 4 months. Now, to finish off today's episode, I want to talk about CPI and PPI numbers that are expected in this week on Tuesday and on Thursday. They are going to begin showing some of the pass-through effects of tariffs. You will see it in core CPI. You will see it in month-over-month headline CPI. You're going to see it in producer prices, particularly core producer prices, which is X energy and other goods. And then beyond that, we are also going to get the breakdown of where inflation is rising the most. Now, one thing I want to caution about these numbers is due to the BLS methodology, oftentimes it looks like inflation is rising less or sometimes more at that current month than what was actually happening, right? Because there's a little bit of a lag for these to feed through into specifically CPI prices. Famously, shelter in 2022 was like this. So I want you guys to look when it comes out, and I'm going to break it down on Wednesday's episode, but there are going to be some categories where it's going to look like inflation is not rising, like as an example, food. But that is clearly and evidently wrong, because you can walk into any grocery store and see those prices rising. But this is not a case of fraud. This is not a case of the government lying to you. This is simply a case of this takes time to feed through. And this is a timing issue rather than a, incorrect reporting issue, which, by the way, there are often times of that, but it may not specifically be here. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. You can watch it on Forbes website, on Forbes YouTube page. You can watch shorts of it on my TikTok, my Instagram, my Twitter page. And I hope to see you guys again soon.